Well, hello. So it's the Wolf Summit again, our next monthly edition. We're tremendously excited to have you all here. We have listened to your feedback and you will see a lot of new things that have been added to our event in response to what you asked for. So I hope you're going to enjoy this. So stay tuned to all the new bits and pieces that we have provided. Righty-ho. So today's event is sponsored by Microsoft and we're really proud and really excited to have Microsoft again as our partner. So please make sure that you pop around, and also the next thing that's coming is just about a minute video from Microsoft. So please tune in and see you in a bit.
Fantastic to be here in Warsaw and in Poland.
Microsoft and our partner ecosystem are creating artificially intelligence-infused solutions to help you make your business more intelligent. There are many examples already. The future is here today. We want to contribute to the growth of the Polish economy and for the Polish digital valley to become a reality.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed that. Righty-ho, without further ado, we're moving into our first panel discussion. The panel is titled How to Get Your Customers and Investors Interested in Your Product. Well, this is incredibly important to find out right now. And there are some really interesting and tremendously experienced people who will talk you through this. So please say hello to Coyne, Karolina, Wojtas, Igor, Madzov, and Łukasz, Foks. So please tune in for 40 minutes of brainstorming and interesting ideas.
Good to go. Hey guys, and welcome to discussion. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Łukasz, Igor, and Karolina. As you know already, we're going to talk all about how to get your customers and investors interested in your product. And I think this is a real interesting discussion, particularly at the current environment with new technology, the pandemic. There's a lot of competition out there. So how do you differentiate your product? How do you launch your product? What are the steps? What are the lessons learned? What are the mistakes people are making? Do you go with a viral campaign? Is it all about money? These are some of the topics that we're going to cover today. So briefly, before we start the questions, I'm going to do some introductions. I will start with myself, and then I'll ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves, and then we're going to go into the topic. So my name is Coyne. I'm the head of technology at Ops Talent. I'm also an avid podcaster. I've got my own podcast called Tech People because I love meeting new people, leaders, entrepreneurs, learning from their experiences, listening to how they achieve their success as well as their failures, and learn from this. I actually started out my career in finance, would you believe, many years ago back in Ireland. And management accountant. From finance, I moved into financial systems, and this is how I got into the whole area of tech, which I love working in tech now, but it's great having that finance background. Lived in Dublin for many years, Amsterdam, Brussels, Poland, worked across many industries, many sectors, and I've been lucky with Ops Talent to work across some fantastic new and emerging technologies, from AI to data, digital, blockchain. So I've seen some really cool products. And I've seen some successes as well as many failures. And today, we're going to talk a bit more about this today. So, Igor, I just ask you first, please, to do an introduction first.
Thank you, Ken. Hello, everybody, and it's great to be here online. I'm looking forward to be with you in Poland soon, but I'm welcoming you from Skopje, my birth town, and where I'm active out of Macedonia. So a little bit about me. I'm a big passion and very passionate about technology, but from the very start, I wanted to build businesses first based on technology. So it was all about creating businesses that are around technology, but not necessarily for technology. So being in event management, starting from 20 years old, I had my own company, went into business publishing, sold that, started a few startups, and eventually I wanted to go into supporting technology startups. So I joined a VC fund about 4 years ago, called South Central Ventures, investing in the Western Balkans, so the region that I'm representing, and necessarily working with the best startups in the region to expand them out of this of the market and go to Western Europe and US. So we've seen this challenge that we as a region are a test bed for technology, but the products are not everything. It's also about business. So this is where my personal connections with the business side and working with startups to find ways to take products on the big market, on the global market, comes in hand. And so for the past period, I'm also very much passionate about supporting ecosystem. So I founded an organization called Startup Macedonia that supports the ecosystem as well as the ecosystems of the Western Balkans. So I'm part of Swiss CP and working with investment relations and supporting startups expanding. So thank you, Ken, for giving this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the conversation about how technology startups can build great products and businesses out of them.
Awesome, thank you, Igor. Okay, we'll go over to Karolina next.
Thank you very much, Ken. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm involved in a startup community since few years, and I've been working in many different companies in different positions. Currently, I'm an associate in ICOS Capital, that is an Amsterdam-based venture capital fund that is investing in deep tech companies in round A, round B, and we are looking mostly for companies in sectors such as biochemicals, chemicals, industry, food tech, agri-tech. Previously, I was also connected with a venture capital fund. However, it was more like a seed fund. Also previously with an accelerator. I also had some experience working directly in startups and in corporations such as ABB, the Boston Consulting Group, and also somewhere on the way co-founding my own startups and accelerators. So that's it, and I will be very happy today to share the investor perspective of the topic.
Great, Karolina, fantastic, and thank you for that. Okay, Łukasz, you're best for last, is it?
Thank you, Ken, and thank you for having me. So I spent the last 10 years at Microsoft across a couple of our B2C and B2B businesses, currently helping devs and startups to use literally the best puzzles among 160 that we do have in our Microsoft Azure Cloud. Personally, on the side of growth hacking, literally cooking go-to-market strategies with startups after hours. I'm a sustainability geek, so I hope we will be able to chat that side also a little bit in our conversations today. And like we've been chatting before we've been live, a lot of respect words to all of the founders who are joining us today, and keeping fingers crossed for those who are pitching actually during the contest.
Yeah, I mean, it is challenging times, definitely, but I think for all businesses at the moment, but especially, I guess so for startups, on one side, building products, the other side is funding. But okay, thank you, Łukasz, for that. Okay, so we got two different perspectives today, guys. On one side, we're looking at the product side and customer focus side of how you target your product towards customers and how you attract these customers. On the other side, we're looking at the investor side. So how do you get investors interested in your product in order to get them to invest in your company? So I'm going to start my first question, and I'm going to target that to you, Łukasz, because you're very much more on the customer side. So how do you get customers interested in your product?
Yeah, so I believe that customer obsession never been so important like nowadays. So I believe that all of those best growth hacks that I use for my business and which I discussed with some startups who are part of our program all around how to be much closer to the customers. And of course, it sounds like a cliche, and there are like many discussions and theories and strategies that you have to design your product, for example, from customer needs point of view. But currently, I believe with those limited resources and discussions around how to prioritize, where to put those resources, which we do have still in place, it's all around trying to literally target the core personas, and we have to be like extremely focused to whom we are talking and what kind of intelligence we have around those personas. And many startups literally started to use those toolkits, like from service design world or design thinking world, just to be able to define who is our ultimate customer. And I heard even an interesting term, zero-waste marketing. I mentioned sustainability at the beginning, but it's not about like environment yet, but it's all about how we are assessing what we have in our pipelines, what kind of data we have in CRM. Maybe there's some campaign which we haven't like follow up yet. And I believe that right assessment of what kind of resources we do have and how we might literally look again, what kind of value we might source out of it. And that's of course like really rigid work. And I believe, you know, the best value in terms of what you have is your team. And of course, there are many discussions around how to optimize the P&L, how to literally drive cost saving even agenda for your company. But I believe there is no like better asset than your folks who are literally the part of your team, who know your business, who've been talking to your customers. In case you will send those folks against your customers, I believe you will have a great set of ideas at the end. And that's what we are trying to do. So on one side, you are seeing Microsoft as a big tech company, but regarding our relationships with startups, we are only partners. So we want to make sure that those startups who are ready to pitch to enterprises, literally which have more and more opportunities to meet those AXOs of big ventures, big corporations, like we or all of the other like enterprises from around the world. So I believe it's again, customer obsession, spend more time with customers, simply listen to them. There is no simple bullet, of course, especially nowadays. Even if we are like working in the online environment, it's more tough. It's super hard to like be productive, as all those signals are flying in across all of our calendars, Teams channels, and so on. But we dedicate some time towards customers. Like I'm trying to do today during both summits. And literally, in case we could help you join our program, and definitely that's the main value prop we could do for you.
Yeah, interesting, because you know I do agree with you. It has to be customer focused all the way. I've seen too many products fail because a founder or team think they have a great product, but they haven't gone out to the market and actually checked it. But so how do you? I mean, Lucas, how do you help your startups? You know, test the market, get close to the customer. Is there tools, or what way do you approach that?
Sure. So the biggest value, that's my personal feeling after all those chats that we had in Central and Eastern Europe, is that literally first people are seeing us as a tech company, but at the end, how we are really doing so, and to precisely answer your question, we are like trying to use our business superpowers and literally use the sales force of Microsoft to give the opportunities to startups to literally talk to our customers. So I believe it's all about like giving the chance to pitch to CXOs. Recently, we started the customer access program, where startups who went through our journey through the Microsoft Startups program are able to pitch to those companies whom they are actually nominating. Then we are trying to find literally the ways how we might start those conversations. So in a nutshell, like the Microsoft for Startups program has a rigid path how to reach, for example, our customers. Of course, we are starting with that. We want to make sure that startups are ready literally at the backend side of the solution. But then we are investing same amount of time through our startup success managers who are coming from the sales world to prepare founders and all the folks who are working for particular startup to be ready to pitch to those business decision makers, we are all calling them. And I believe that's an interesting angle. Not only startups, let's say Microsoft, someone who might help with the business part. And I believe, again, that's the biggest value prop, and we have a rigid way how to do so. And I want to confirm that we see that it works not only for B2B startups. That's our first target, because then, of course, we are the platform company. We are selling also to businesses. So we went through the journey, and all of our employees are literally also driving their small startups within Microsoft, like I do for Microsoft Azure. In the end, I believe that's our core expertise. So feel free to ping me, by the way, also after the panel, so we might have a chat how we are doing. So we are having a couple of folks hoping the platform who might help you to see it.
Okay. How about you, Karolina and Igor? I mean, what's your opinion on that, about the customer focus, and how do you become customer focused? Igor, would you like to jump into that one?
Yeah, so please go ahead, Igor.
Yeah.
Ladies first, let's go with Karolina.
Okay, yeah, so in general, of course, I totally agree with Łukasz that customer focus is like a key thing for startup to do since the very beginning of its business. And from investor perspective, I think it's even more for us as investors important if a startup knows their customers. So this is like a key thing for us. And when we are assessing a project, we look at it more holistically than usually client is looking on a product. So from investor perspective, I must say that if you want to, as the second question of our discussion was, so how to also convince investor to your product, I would say that you should rather convince investor to your business. And it is much more harder than convincing customer, I think, because as I mentioned, investor is looking not only on how good is your product, but also how big is your market, how good is your technology itself, how good is your team. So many different factors. But of course, for us as investors, customer focus is crucial, and also understanding the needs of the client, because something that is also very often visible, that people who are building startups, they do not really have the insight in the branch in which they are creating a product. It is sometimes visible in B2B companies that are selling to big players. So let's imagine that you are a software house and you spin off a product that is dedicated for energy sector, but you do not really have anybody on board that previously worked in this sector. So when you are trying to convince then customer to this product, a startup that is having an industrial person on board will do it much more easier, because it is talking with a customer on the same level. So this customer understanding and feeling that customer pain is also very important thing. And I think that from our perspective as investors, it is a crucial thing for a startup to understand the client and to be able to speak the same language as the client is speaking.
Yeah, very good point, Karolina.
Yes.
How about you, Igor?
Yes, I couldn't agree more, because that was one of my first approaches when I talk to startups is, have you done the proper customer discovery? And what actually activities have you conducted in order to understand your customer better? It's much easier when you have a founder that is already in the industry. So it worked in the industry that he's targeting. He saw the problems and then decided to take his own entrepreneurial path and create a product for that specific industry. But when just there is some founders thinking of a big market and how to tackle it, not necessarily there is a business in that, there might be a product at the end. So we have this exercise that we're usually doing. It's very similar to the this multi-level marketing scheme where you need to do 100 contacts of people that you have to contact. So make a list of 100 companies that you need to actually assess. So basically in that way, you will understand what is their needs, and don't push your product to them, but try to listen, because listening might lead you to some discoveries that you never thought before. So having an open mind in this process is really important at a very early stage. On the other hand, when a company is already working and has revenues, the biggest asset they can do is, as Łukasz said, is their team, and the success team actually going back to the customers and understanding how they use the product. So if the product is probably used as they intended, is great, but in most cases, clients use the product for a totally different purpose. So maybe this is a niche that they can target and they can go deeper. So that's why, especially for me, it's interesting, the business intelligence and AI when it comes to discovering of patterns within the client list. So with that client list, you understand who you can target and test the approaches, because there is no one unique approach to every client. I know that we like to create one pitch for all, so you cannot have one pitch for a client and the same pitch goes to an investor. That doesn't work. And I have seen it a million times asking companies, sorry, is this your sales pitch or this is your investor's pitch? I'm not getting the information right. So even investor and investor have different approaches. So do your homework first, who you're talking with, and be prepared to actually include very personal information that are relatable to the person you talk to. So in that way, your product is more relatable and you can sell easier. But without the proper customer discovery, it's really hard for startups to actually succeed, because they will not show the insight of the market and probably fail at the end.
So it's a very good point you mentioned. So a customer discovery journey that you expect as an investor. So that's for you. It's you've spoken to 100 clients. How do you target? I mean, is it surveys? Is it phone calls? I mean, how do you measure, and how do you actually? What tools would you use for that, or do you just leave?
I would say that as an investor, I would not ask if they did the 100 people survey, because in some cases, if just a survey has been done, it's not the proper data. Just going with like really calling people and saying, I want to get an insight of your business. This is something that is important. Or a customer looking to actually have a problem solved with your product, and then you're opening up and saying what is more that you need. So we had one case that I can mention, that actually a company had a product for this customer, and basically they thought that by selling what he wanted, they will have a great sale. But the customer wanted another thing, and he was saying, okay, I want an extra feature, and without this extra feature, I will not be going forward. So basically, the company did a survey and said to their original customers, are you actually interested in this feature? So this feature became a really essential part that none of their customers was thinking about, because they were satisfied with what they already had, but were never hoping for more. So out of a open conversation with a client, it ended up being a very significant feature to their business.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, Karolina.
Yeah, I think that you made a really good point, Igor, and I think that it's also worth to add that we as investors also speak with clients to verify either the product or the business itself, because especially in B2B business, when you are investing in a company that, let's say, is delivering some kind of hardware part for factories, you can very easily reach those clients if they are in a sector that your fund is investing through your relations, or directly asking a startup in which you are considering the investment, just to give you some contacts to those clients. And by it, as an investor, you are also very easily able to understand if the customer is really interested in the product of the startup, or maybe they are more interested in a marketing part of working with startups, or if the things that startup was saying to you are really true, and what is the long-term perspective on the cooperation between the clients and the startup. So I think that you should not only just verify client as a startup since the very beginning, but also then in the process to make sure that your client is satisfied with the work that you do for him, because many people in the future will try to verify it, how it went in the past. And even if there was any kind of failures regarding the clients, investors, especially on a later stage, ask very often any detail about it. So even if some cooperation ended with a customer, you might be asked one day, why does it happen? So it's very good to always be close to your client, even if something went wrong on the way, to just give this information, get this information from him.
Very interesting, Karolina. And actually, Łukasz, I want to ask you about, because there are two very good points, but the challenge also on that side can be that you make a product geared toward one customer or one subset of customers, and you alienate the rest of your customer base. So how would you avoid that? I mean, okay, you're listening to all this feedback, one customer saying, I want this feature, or a small group of our customers. Do you go ahead with that, or how do you manage that to not ensure you don't alienate other customers in your client base and future client base?
Yeah, so we touched a little bit around the focus at the beginning. So I believe it's also regarding your product roadmap, and in that field, especially probably those discussions around resources available are popping up quicker. And definitely we want to optimize the P&L as a tech founders at the end. So I believe, again, it's about trying to prioritize like those key features, and again, being agile and trying to come back to what we've been saying at the beginning. If we are sure that we are targeting the right customer, the right persona, then of course we would be somehow sure that we are heading in the right direction. Probably we have to verify that through several loops. That's why those conversations nowadays are around the pivots. So you know, it's great that we could come back to those best authors and literally the top theories, and I feel the mantra of MVP never been so important. So create something which is a minimum viable answer towards that particular need. And of course, it sounds easy, but it's super, super hard. And even consider our chat around, okay, talking to customers, how to talk to a new customer when everyone is sitting at home. So how to pitch to CXOs, how to sell a multi-million-dollar deal to the big enterprise. So it's super hard, but at the end, there are many great hacks. So Igor, we've touched a little bit around how to reach those through like online channels, but I believe there are also creative tactics mentioned by all of the other founders. And the best which I heard is, for example, that big enterprises are still organizing the hackathons. So recently I heard about big automotive company from Germany who is still calling for innovations for their like challenges that they see. And startups, even venture builders, are seeing that as a way to be present and visible. So they don't want to like win just to be the first and prove that they have like great idea towards those challenges. But for them, it's a kind of great way of marketing their skill set or marketing the value prop that they could deliver. So I believe there are more and more like clever hacks how you could build and invest that online words to literally like unlock those opportunities. But again, you need to be focused. I'm doing that for my business. And at the end, I heard from like founders, all right, I could afford only 3 things currently. So like being super laser focused at the end on the customer side and the product side, never be so important.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. I can only afford, I got a limited budget. What is the best way to get that customer interested in your product? So have you got some other examples or case studies that you could reference, or ideas that you come across that have worked well in getting customers interested in your product? That's open to anybody who would like to take that question. Igor?
Yeah, so something that I wanted to address basically as part of the thinking process around this session was that we sometimes neglect the competition, and we neglect that there should be business around the product, not just product. So I'm just putting my investor's hat for a second, because in the process of actually people looking to sell their product, they're satisfying the need. But as Karolina said, how big is the market for that need, and is there any feasible business out of this product? Maybe just 100 people wants to buy it, but not at the end. That's just a product for 100 people. It's not a business that is scalable and somebody that invests. So founders have to be really careful about it, and what is their mission actually and vision about their company. So what I would like to address right now is really also touch the base about competition. And I've seen so many pitches that neglect the competition as like we have no competition, nobody is doing that what we are doing, or even worse, they're targeting 70% of their presentation only on the product features and not on the business. So here is where investors are losing their patience and attention, because they understand that it's a technology-focused startup, and it should be the all-rounded startup with the multiple skill set, so covering all the bases in order to grow a business. So what I would suggest, if when it comes to a product and for how product to be sold is one thing, but how to sell your business to an investor is totally another thing. So putting, as I said, the investor's hat, please, to all the startups, include competition and go in details, sometimes acknowledging that you have something that is less than the others. So you're not 100% better than all the others. Okay. You have something that is less, and you are just acknowledging that. But there is some unique thing about you, that you have the insight of the market, that you know what your customers want, that you have a geographical advantage. So what is this unique value proposition you're offering to the investor, so that they're actually bringing you to the next meeting? And it's also about customers. When you're talking to corporates or big enterprise clients, and Łukasz can correct me on this, you cannot close a deal with one meeting. It will take you probably months and months building a relation, so you can actually have this client put you on the list. So that's why sometimes it's hard for startups to work with corporates or enterprise clients. And I agree totally that all these hackathons and events are a great intro, so that they can showcase their ability to create products and how great of a team they are. Because at the end, it's all about relations. So relation with clients and relations with startups. So don't ask from a client or from an investor to invest just because they met you once. And it's a building process. So this is my take because we are getting close to the end.
No, I think it's a very good point.
Yeah, if I may.
Go on, Karolina.
Yeah, if I may add something, I'm all for this competition thing that you mentioned. I'm always surprised when I cannot see in a pitch deck like anything about the competition. And what is more, if startups do not know their competitors, it's very also often thing that sometimes when startup is coming to you and they are telling you about the competition, and of course you as the other party, as the other side, you did your research before, and you ask a startup about the competitor that you just Googled in the internet, and they cannot say what is their competitive advantage over this competitor. So I think that one very important thing that needs to be mentioned here is that startups should know the competitive advantage, both when talking to clients and also when talking to an investor. In general, I feel like we can say that each startup can have either technological advantage or operational advantage, or of course marketing advantage. And being aware of this advantage and being aware of how am I positioning among my competitors and on the market is a key thing, because when you are speaking with a client or investor, always this question will be asked, like, so why are you better than the company X, or why are you different than company Y? Investors and clients are approached by many companies like your startup, so you have to have this one point competitive advantage to convince them that they should choose you, not somebody else. So I think that's a key thing to be defined by each startup. What is your competitive advantage?
Brilliant. So just a quick summary on those points, because really, really good points in terms of how do you make a product interesting for investors. So one is obviously knowing your product, knowing your competition, knowing the market. What are the other key points that investors look for when they want to understand and want to get investors interested in your product? Karolina or Igor, if you want to quickly jump in there on that before we close that.
Yes, so just to give you a short brief, because we are coming to the end of time indeed. So of course the team is another crucial factor. Then the protection of the product, because if you want to be in this business in the long term, you have to be better than your competitors, but you also have to be better also after 5 years. So the things like IP protection, I mean patents or some know-how protection is also a key thing for investor. Other thing is how is your company structured? So what is your cap table? Who is the shareholder? How much money you raised previously? Other things can be very related to the technology. So how good are you in the technology that you are developing? If it's easy for 3 people to gather somewhere in the world and build exactly the same thing that you are building. So those are the questions that very often appear in the mind of an investor. And of course, somewhere among that are the things like financial related stuff. I mean, your P&L, or when you are just starting the financial forecast. So in general, we want to see how big your business can be, because as I think was previously mentioned in our discussion, when you are targeting a 100 million worldwide market, so total addressable market, it would never be interesting for an investor. It could be interesting for your company if you want to be, let's say, a local small family business. It could be interesting, but if you want to go global and build something really big, it's not enough. So you should always look for this $1 billion markets when you are doing a business, if you really want to build something big. So this is also the thing that investors are considering before investing. So I think that most of those are what I mentioned, but of course Igor should definitely add something.
Yeah, I will just agree with Karolina and not cover the same thing, but just add on top of that, because the IP is really important, especially as she is in deep tech, and there is like protection rights. But in some cases, you cannot have like a protection right or a patent, and it's all about how quickly someone else can develop this. So it's first to market, and once the traction you're actually having from the existing companies that are using your products, the revenues are increasing. What's the metrics on MRR and all these customer acquisition costs, things that are really just super natural to us to ask, but sometimes founders forget that they should have all these answers. And one thing that I would like to also mention is how they handle critical situations. So we have now been hit with this COVID crisis, and it's really much investors are looking how actually companies are dealing with the challenges that this situation is giving them. So what are the changes they did? How they're handling their clients? Are they increasing or decreasing? So one case that actually I can just mention as a success story out of Macedonia at least is there is one giant called GrabHub for delivering food in the States, and there is a little guy called Slice that works with small pizzerias around New York area, so just East Coast. But they managed actually to help about 10,000 pizzerias on the East Coast stay alive and deliver their food to their customers, making them actually the partner of choice and closing a 45 million round in this COVID crisis.
Wow.
So just saying that it's not impossible, even for somebody coming from a smaller economy targeting a big market to do it, but just you need to be really, really focusing on what your customers want, be really there for them. So when even something goes wrong, such as this crisis, you have an answer and be there as a support.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. That's really good summary. So go back to you, Łukasz. in terms of the customer side, I mean, what for you are the key steps in getting your customers in some way interested in your product?
Yeah, so definitely, like, to sum up, we touched about customer obsession, about the team, about lean product development, about hacking, how you are going to the market. Definitely, it's important to bear in mind that it's great to have partnership with good terms, especially nowadays. And corporate accelerators are still on. Like, companies like Techstars are looking for the next cohort of companies who might help their clients at the end to remain under new norm. So that's super important. But also, I feel there are very important aspects which are not so visible currently in P&Ls, like reports that we see on the stock exchange. Is again the sustainability. And I've seen that under new norm, there were like many companies who be going beyond. And of course, they had their growth in mind, but still they've been serving the local communities. We think about going global, we think about bigger rounds of investments, but we cannot forget that literally we are also supporting those who are based in our countries. And I'm saying that as a European Union citizen at the end, that I would love to see that those companies who grow and will remain in the market, literally we will also have in mind that they have to pay back the karma and they have to serve also those who are in need around, and those signals which we see from like last week that are on.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe there's only a couple of minutes left. Thank you, Łukasz, for that. Can I just briefly touch on, because it's a very we've currently got the epidemic. It's a very competitive environment. Technology is changing rapidly. How do you stay ahead of the competition? Somebody want to jump in and take that one just briefly? Łukasz, maybe I can take that. Or Karolina, perfect, thank you.
Yes, so in general, I think that nowadays what is especially important is to be even more customer focused than before, because now customers start to have new problems, the problems that they've never faced before. So for some companies, like healthcare related companies, like grocery delivering companies, there are huge opportunities for the development. But for most of the companies, unfortunately, on the market, who are selling to B2B businesses or B2C even businesses that have to have this direct contact with a client, it becomes really hard to compete on this market. So what I think all of those companies should really do right now is to redefine their strategies. So what we are doing, for example, in all of our portfolio companies, we just create a strategy and a financial plan in case that this situation will last forever, for 2 years, and it will disappear in 3 months. And I think that this is really what every startup right now should do, just to build different scenarios for the future in order to build different competitive advantage in different scenarios. I think it's very important.
Okay, brilliant, thank you.
I will agree with Karolina about the scenarios, because that's exactly what we're doing with our companies that we're supporting in the Balkans with SwissCP, and prepare them for the best and for the worst. And that's, I think it's why startups are so successful, that because they are all about the little pivots that makes them resilient to the circumstances. But of course, they're also really fragile. So you have to have the plan for the super quick success, and also for the really best scenario.
Okay. I see we've got one question there that's just come in before we end. What's the best way to find out what the customer wants?
There are many techniques, and we have literally 1 minute, so there'll be the shortest speech ever. So we can like spend more time with them. People like, look, how you might reach them. Those are already in your CRMs. Send those folks who are literally working for you, and then give them more time that they could speak with them and literally know them more. So there's no better way than dedicate more time towards that. And then the last comment from my side. No, we exchange like bold ideas, but you are the forefront of this part. So we are, we want to say a lot of words of respect towards you, and among us all who are here, I feel we need to help you, and we need to act responsibly. So in case you want to partner with us, like with Microsoft Startups, definitely talk to Victoria Przybylska from Polish subsidiary or me, and we would be happy to continue.
Great.
So
Thank
maybe
you.
just another question from my side to Alexander, who asked this question. So maybe please read the Steve Blank book, The First Steps to the Epiphany, and the basic rule is just get out of the building. I think this book should help you with defining how to talk to clients.
Great, guys. Thank you for your time. Honestly, I had a lot more questions. I didn't think it would go so quickly, but listen, thank you, everyone. Fantastic insights, really helpful, and look forward to doing it all again at some stage in the future. Thank you, guys, and have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic to be here in Warsaw and in Poland.
Microsoft and our partner ecosystem are creating artificially intelligent infused solutions to help you make your business more intelligent. There are many examples already. The future is here today. We want to contribute to the growth of the Polish economy and for the Polish digital valley to become a reality.